All right. Well, I want to welcome everyone. Good afternoon. It is my pleasure to be the MC for our virtual career panel today. I'm Tammy McBride. I'm the Career Connected Learning Specialist for the North Central ESD. On behalf of the North Central ESD and Apple STEM Network, I would like to extend my warm welcome to all of you. We appreciate you making this time to join us today. We hope you learn a lot in this hour together, and we have a great panel lined up for you. We want to thank and acknowledge Chelan County PUD for joining us today and taking personal time out of their schedules for this career panel discussion. Today we have three career professionals from Chelan County PUD who will give a short individual presentation about their position. Each career presentation will be followed by a short question and answer. As an attendee, you will need to type your questions out on the question and answer area on Zoom, or if you are live with us, you can type your question there to any of the career panelists during this time. To begin this program, I am pleased to introduce Bob Bauer, Education Specialist with the Chelan County PUD, to deliver the opening remarks. So,
good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us. So I don't know if I'm on, Tammy. I'm still seeing the main screen, the PowerPoint. So Tammy, nod your head yes if I should just go, because I'm not seeing anything. Okay, so I'm just going to go. I can't see anything on my computer, but my name is Bob Bauer, and I'm the Outreach Education Specialist for Chelan County PUD, and I want to tell you how much I appreciate you being with us today. In just a few minutes, you're going to be introduced to what I call three of the rock stars of Rocky Reach, the guys who make that great big project work. But I want to take you on a little trip before we do that. So just real quickly, I'm going to show you a picture. It's the only picture I'm going to show you today. And you kind of see if you recognize that picture. You should, because that is a picture of the Space Needle in Seattle. And so I want you to just put your imagination hats on for a minute and go on a little trip with me. Are you ready? Here we go. We're going to drive to Seattle. We landed. Now we're standing at the base of the Space Needle, and we're going to look straight up to the top of the Space Needle. And when we get to the top, we're going to be looking 605 feet into the air. Then I want you to do something for me. In your mind's eye, would you put a second Space Needle on top of that one? And then would you put a third Space Needle on top of that one? Will you go 4 Space Needles high? Now here's for the drum roll. In your mind's eye, I want you to imagine another half. So 4.5 Space Needles straight up into the air. The reason I want you to do that is because 4.5 Space Needles high is about 2,690 feet above sea level. And up in Canada, in British Columbia, there is a lake. And that lake is called Columbia Lake, and it sits 2,690 feet above sea level. And that lake in Canada is completely surrounded by mountains. And every year during the winter, it snows in those mountains, and the snowpack gets higher and higher and higher. And then every February, something really incredible happens. You guys know that in February, the days start to get a little bit longer, and the temperature starts to get a little bit warmer. And what happens is that snow melts into that lake, and the lake level rises, and we get what we call our spring runoff. Now that water that was in the lake is really going to start coming down what we call the Columbia River, this incredible natural resource that we have. The Columbia River is really unique. Remember, I just told you it starts 2,690 feet above sea level. You all probably know that it empties at sea level between Washington and Oregon into the Pacific Ocean. Now watch this. Starts 2,690 feet above sea level. It empties at sea level. It's 1,243 miles long. So if you did the math, you would realize that the Columbia River drops 2¼ feet for every mile in length. So if you really think about the Columbia River, it's a river on a hill. And because you have water that's coming down, you have the two things that you need for hydroelectricity. You have lots of water and you have lots of drop. And because of that reason, on the Columbia River, there are 14 hydroelectric projects. 3 of them are in Canada, 11 of them are in the United States. And what happens is that water can run through each one of those projects, and 11 different times that block of water can turn turbines to generate power. Well, today I just want to introduce you real quickly to one of those 14 projects. It's the one that I work at. It's called Rocky Reach Dam. I'm sure that most all of you have been there at some point, but just a little bit of stuff that you may not know about Rocky Reach Dam. Rocky Reach was built between 1956 and 1961. Total turnkey operation cost was about $273 million. For $273 million between 1956 and 1961, they were actually able to put a wall in the middle of the river. There's 1 million cubic yards of concrete in that wall at about 4,000 pounds a cubic yard. That means that wall is about a 4 billion pound wall sitting in the river. And that wall allows us to have water on one side of the wall higher than the other side. And that enables us to drop water onto turbines. We have 11 turbines. We have 11 generating units. And on each one of our turbines, there's a couple different sizes. We've got some small units, some big units, but just in general, we can drop about 7.5 million gallons of water a minute onto a 400,000 pound turbine. On top of that is a shaft. On top of that is what we call a rotor. Think of a great big magnet. And the combined weight of that turbine, that shaft, and that rotor is about 2.5 million pounds. So watch what happens. The energy of the river allows us to drop water, spin a generating unit about 2.5 million pounds, and to generate power. And then that water that we use to generate power goes down to Rock Island, and then to Wanapum, Priest Rapids, and all the other dams. So we are living in North America, the Pacific Northwest, and we have one of the most incredible natural resources in the Columbia River. The energy that we're able to take from the river to transfer to a turbine, to transfer to an electrical current, to generate just at Rocky Reach about 1,300 megawatts of energy, to turn things on in your house. I'm guessing light bulbs are probably important to you, probably not as important as your Xbox 360 or your Sega Genesis, but it's all about generating power. And the really cool thing is that hydropower and what we do at Chelan County PUD and at Rocky Reach is 4 things. You ready? The power that we generate, hydropower, it's clean, it's renewable, it's reliable, the river always runs, and it's affordable. So we have this great 4 billion pound wall sitting in the river that we're using to generate all kinds of energy. And it's all because we have that natural resource. Well, I want to close with this thought before we introduce our career professionals. That great natural resource, it's just a wonderful thing, but it's just a natural resource until it meets the human resource. The human resource consists of those visionaries and those dreamers back in the 40s who thought that they could build a wall. They believed in their dream, they believed in their vision, and they made it happen. And the reason that natural resource today can combine with the human resource, and the reason that Rocky Reach can generate so much power, is because of the human resources that work there. There are so many STEM careers, science, technology, engineering, and math, careers that are required, and professionals that are required to perform in those careers to make that place work. If you're in middle school or you're in high school, I want to let you know that the hydro industry is going to be looking for all kinds of professional positions for the next many, many years. You're in a great spot if you're in junior high or high school right now, because the industry is going to be needing sharp people in STEM careers. So I just wanted to let you know that the 3 men that you're about to meet, these guys are awesome. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you for being with us today. And Tammy, I'm going to pass this back to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Bob. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you our first panelist, Bill Towey, Fisheries Scientist with Chelan County PUD. Bill?
Thanks, Tammy. Thanks for inviting me to do a presentation today. This is a little unusual. We do a lot of presentations to classrooms. We have bus tours coming through, but it's usually face-to-face. So this is a unique situation. It's given us an opportunity to learn new skills on how to use the technology. And so I'm really excited to be here today to give you a little glimpse into what a fishery biologist does, and maybe start off with giving you a little background on how I became a biologist. I often get asked the question, you know, how do you become a biologist, or what made you interested in the field of biology? So I'll give a little background. Growing up, I loved to hunt and fish. So I was always out in the outdoors. I always had a connection with the environment. You know, I really didn't, at that point, didn't understand or realize that someday it would be my career. But I look back on things and how they progressed. You know, it's just a natural fit. If you like being in the outdoors, wading in the stream, fishing, camping, anything outdoors, you know, it's a great field to maybe consider in the future. At the same time I was doing hunting and fishing, I was pretty involved in baseball. So my dream was, I'm going to become a professional baseball player. So I worked hard at that, played a lot of baseball, made it up through semi-pro baseball, but at some point that ended. So thankfully, looking back, you know, my outdoor experiences, my love of writing, I really enjoyed writing, problem solving. I enjoyed my science classes going through school. Eventually led to going to college and getting a biology degree. So fortunate that, you know, you want to use your interests, things that you do, that hobbies or interests, pay attention to those things. And when you get opportunities to learn more about those fields, immerse yourself into those things. So my title, I'm a fisheries scientist for Chelan PUD. So to operate the projects that Bob was talking about, Rock Island, Rocky Reach, and we have a project at Chelan, Lake Chelan. In order to operate those hydro projects and to get the benefits that Bob explained, we have some responsibilities for fish and wildlife. So I'm involved in the fishery side of things, and I'll give you some examples of some of the projects that we're involved with. We do a lot of fish passage, so to get the juvenile salmon and the adult salmon. So the juveniles are migrating downstream to the ocean, so they have to go through two of our projects on the Columbia River. And those two projects, Rocky Reach Dam and Rock Island Dam. So we monitor the juveniles coming through the projects. We've got a juvenile bypass system on Rocky Reach that is pretty extraordinary. If you ever get a chance to go on the tours, and Bob can speak more to that, and he would probably be the one giving you the tour. But we have some pretty significant juvenile bypass system in place on the Columbia River. So we track juveniles moving downstream. We track adult salmon coming back from the ocean. So they're moving up through our projects. So we have fish ladders that facilitate that. So we do a lot of fish passage monitoring. A big part of our work is habitat enhancement projects. We enhance habitat on major tributaries to the Columbia River. So we're actively involved and work with other stakeholders in the valley on implementing those habitat enhancement projects. We do a fair amount of hatchery production for salmon species and resident fish species. So steelhead, chinook, sockeye. We do sturgeon production, and we also have rainbow trout production. We do quite a bit of spawning surveys, and I'm lucky enough to be involved in our kokanee spawning surveys conducted each year up at Stehekin. So if you've ever had the chance to boat up to Stehekin, it's a beautiful place. We conduct those spawning surveys from September to October every year. So that's if you haven't been to Stehekin, make it a point to get up there. It's a beautiful part of the country. We also control bird and predatory fish. So there's bird species and fish species in our project areas that have detrimental impacts to our salmon. So we're actively involved in predatory fish. So northern pike minnow being the primary species that we actively remove so that they don't have that tremendous impact on our salmon stocks. I'll move into what do I like about being a biologist? What are the great parts of being a biologist? And what comes to mind is just working in the outdoors. So going back to growing up and being out in nature, there's nothing better than spending a day counting fish or doing habitat projects in the river, just being outdoors. I spend quite a bit of time in waders and wading boots, and I'll show you those a little bit later. But I know it's going to be a good day when I put on my waders and wading boots in the morning to go out in the field. So that's one of the great parts of being a biologist. Collecting information, if you're detail orientated and you have a skill of taking good notes or being observant, it's great to be a biologist. That's what you do, collect information and then report on it. So I really enjoy those aspects of being a biologist. I also enjoy working with all the other folks in the other disciplines within the district. We have accountants, we have engineers, we have lawyers, we have outreach folks. It's just a pleasure to work with different disciplines and learn from those different folks in the district. So I really enjoy that too. Difficult parts of being a biologist, you work in really extreme weather conditions. So you get up in the morning, you're out in the field, you might be dealing with snow, rain, hail, wind, so it's nice when the sun's out and there's no wind, but sometimes you're out in the field and you get these weather patterns moving in, especially up at Stehekin. We get it all the time. So we got to dress appropriately, but that's, one of the downsides. And also when you spend a lot of time out in the field, you get up about 5 o'clock in the morning, you do your scheduling, you do your safety, and then you do your transport to wherever you're going in the field. And sometimes it's a couple-hour commute to get to where we're going. So you do your field work all day, and you might not get home till 9:30 at night, and then repeat that the next day. And then on top of that, dealing with the weather. If it's bad weather out, some mornings are tough to get going, knowing that you have to experience those conditions. So those are some of the difficult parts of being a biologist, which aren't terrible. A typical day for me, I coordinate a lot with our other biologists. We have about 11 staff biologists at the district. And I coordinate with those other biologists to make sure that we're prepared for the field work. We schedule our boats and our vehicles. We communicate, we collect information together, and then we ultimately take that information and write reports. So we're documenting our information that we collect during the day. So typical day, some is spent in the office doing report writing, meetings with other colleagues. And then the other part of our job is obviously out in the field collecting information. A little bit about education and training. What does it take to become a biologist? I personally went through a 4-year program at Washington State University and got a BS in biology and a minor in chemistry. And then from there, I've spent the last 30 years being a biologist. So the experience, I've worked for Native American tribes. I've done consulting. I've worked for consulting firms. And then recently, my position with Chelan PUD. So to get to be a biologist, there's the 4-year programs. There's also very good 2-year programs that specialize in water resources or wetland work, technical writing. I mean, there's plenty of specialty fields out there that you can get a 2-year degree and then obviously, get your foot in the door and gain your experience that way. So 4-year degrees, 2-year degrees. You can also go through specialized training to do field work. So we have seasonal fish and wildlife helpers. So if you're interested in the field, there's plenty of options, and like anything, it's just getting your foot in the door and working hard to get there. With that, I've got some tools of the trade. I've already talked about a couple. I'll try to get the camera. So good pair of wading boots. And you're in these things quite a bit. We typically will burn through a pair of these a year. And for normal use, you can get some people. I've got a pair of waders that I do recreationally. I've had for 20 years and they're still, but my work, these usually have holes in them by the end of the year. A good pair of waders. And that also helps out with the poor weather. So we layer our clothes so that if something surprises us out in the field, we're not going to be miserable all day. But a good pair of waders, it's good to have. Our field notebook, and this is an example of it's called Right in the Rain. And you can take your notes out in the field and it can be pouring out rain and it doesn't affect it at all. So you kind of learn that writing on normal paper doesn't work. So there's these specialty pieces of equipment that, are pretty instrumental, and it's, I guess it'd be old school, no electronics, just the old paper and pen. So use that quite a bit. We use, here's some more non-electronic instrumentation. This is it's called a clinometer. We use this quite a bit in the field for gradients. So how steep the river is, or how steep a slope is. If we need to get an accurate measurement, we use a clinometer. And the reason I point that out is that, we still use things that aren't electronic, which is pretty rare, I think, these days. We always take in the field a compass, so we still use compass and maps. And we're kind of proud of that too, because that kind of went by the wayside with technology. But some of the remote locations that we work, we don't have very good coverage, or there's the tree canopy, the GPS doesn't work that great, or if just in case the batteries go dead, this thing always works. So we still pack these around. We do use electronics, so we have GPS. We use GPS quite a bit, and we'll set nets in the lake, especially like Lake Chelan. We'll do set nets for gill netting, and we set all of our nets, all the points within the lake on a GPS, so that the next day we can go recover those without spending all day finding the net. So there's a combination of electronics and then just non-electronic equipment that we use. So with that, I'll answer any questions that people have. Thanks again for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Bill, for sharing your profession with us. As he said, if any of you have any questions for him right now, go ahead and ask away. You can also, at the end of this, we'll open up for another Q&A for all of the other panelists total together. So if you miss this chance and don't have something to ask, that's okay. We can come back to that later. So does anybody have any questions right now? Okay. Who taught you, Bill? Who taught you how to use the clinometer?
One of the first jobs that I had was doing fish habitat surveys in northern Idaho. And so part of the protocol was taking gradients on the river. So luckily, so that's another advice. If you can learn things from other people on, especially when you start using equipment, reach out to folks. And here's the other thing you can do is, and we didn't have that luxury when I first got into the field, but you can Google stuff and you can find videos on how to do just about anything. But I just relied on learning from folks that were that had experience, that had been doing it for a few years, and people will take time to show you how to do things.
Another question, Bill, do you ever see predators in the water?
Yeah, actually, that's a good question. I'm actively on a project where we're removing northern pike from Lake Roosevelt. So there's northern pike, which, they're an apex predator, pretty a toothy ambush predator that we're trying to keep out of our project area. So they're about 60 miles from salmon anadromous waters right now. So we're actively involved in keeping them out of our waters.
Okay. Well, I think that's it right now. Thank you, Bill. Up next, we have Matt Treat, one of Chelan County's PUD hydromechanics.
Hi, Tammy. Thanks for inviting me. Like Bill said, are used to the hands-on or the face-to-face that we normally get out at the dam when we get to talk to the young people. But I prefer that much better, but we'll make do, right? Anyways, again, my name is Matt Treat. I am one of 6 diver mechanics at Chelan County. First and foremost, we are mechanics, turbine mechanics, like Bob was saying. We have a lot of turbines to take care of out there, and that's what my core work is. But we specialize in diving, and as it turns out, the diving turns out to be about 90% of what we do, and that's year round. What we do, what divers do, is we clean, inspect, and maintain everything that's below surface, the water surface. It's a lot of area, and by cleaning the big intakes on the front of the dam where the water goes through the dam into the turbines, they have big screens on them that collect all the milfoil and trees and everything that comes down the river, gets stuck on that, and we'll eventually plug it up. So we'll go in and clean all that off, and it's essentially like going in and peeling off really thick sod off of a really big grate. The inspections we do are the concrete structure, and like Bill had mentioned, the juvenile fish bypass is a really big structure, and it's all steel. So in steel and water, there's a lot of deterioration. So we go and inspect that every year, and we do repair, replacement as needed on those things. But we brought up the concrete inspection. We're looking for any serious cracks or deformities in the dam, which we don't have. Our dam's solid. And repairs, we'll do, a lot of it's just changing out bolts and things like that, but we do a lot of underwater welding and cutting, and I'll talk about that in some of our tools. The underwater welding is normally pretty interesting to people, melting steel. And a lot of the stuff is just equipment maintenance. We have a lot of dive gear. There's a lot of gear that it takes for us to be able to do what we do. And we like it to be in good condition because generally our life depends on how well it works. So the things I like about my job, I'm a competitive person. So I like the fact that when we're diving, we have a certain amount of time to get work done. So you have to be really organized and efficient because you can only be in the water for so long taking on nitrogen. Anyways, I'll explain a little bit about that later too. But, so it's very time sensitive work. So I always feel like a little bit in a hurry, but I like that. It keeps it exciting. It seems like every day is something different at work. We're always, a lot of our work is reactive. Stuff comes up and we've got to go fix it. A lot of it's planned, but I like the fact that we're doing something different every day. I like the fact that I'm outside all the time. When I was planning my future as a high schooler, I thought I was going to be some business guy sitting in an office, or that changed quickly when I started getting more into the outdoors. I love being outdoors. I'm an avid recreationalist outside, so I'm always outside. That's a good thing about my job, but like Bill was saying, that's also one of the bad things about my job. Conditions are harsh in the winter, and sometimes in the summer it's pretty hot, but I like being out when it's nice. But the winters are harsh, and we are outside and wet most of the time. My hands are never as cold, or have never been as cold as they are at work most of the time, just because it's wet and cold. And that's, we deal with that on a daily basis. Something you get a little bit used to, but it's still a gripe. Our typical day, we'll form a job plan in the morning. We'll find out what our task is for the day and form a job plan. And then we spend a bit of time talking about the safety aspect of that and what it means for us. There's a lot of hazards in our job. We deal with a lot of low visibility work. The river, as beautiful as it is, it's muddy in the spring. There's a lot of runoff, so it's silty, and there's times that you literally can't see the hand in front of your face. That's where experience pays off with us, is you just get to know where things are, and you can work around that. So this, in dealing with safety things, we have a lot of things to look at. Well, there's current and things like that, and most of our work we do, it's river current. We don't work with units running, around units that are running. But we have to account for those things and plan for them. So we'll set that time aside in the morning for working those issues out. Once that's done, we'll go through our equipment, inspect it, clean it, maintain it if we have to. But generally it's just inspecting it, make sure it's ready to go. And then we'll set up to dive, depending on where it's at. We could be, diving in a hole inside the dam, in front of the dam. A lot of it's under the structure. If you've been to Rocky Reach, the fish bypass walking along front there, underneath that is a lot of work. So we spend some time in there. And depending on where that's at, a lot of time we'll have to be lifted into the water with a crane. So we'll be setting up cranes and operating cranes, and there's just a lot of extra things to do with our job. It's not just the one person diving is probably doing the least amount of work that's going on at the time. So it's we call it all for one, and that's because normally everybody's working to support the one guy. Anyways, talk a little bit about the education and training. When I was a kid, my parents were always, you got to go to college, you got to go to college. So I started out that way. I did 2 years of college before I decided that was not the direction I wanted to go. So, which was fine. I might have been better off at that time. I like to tell kids now that if you like working with your hands, there's a lot of trade schools that will gear you up for whatever you like to do. But I did 2 years of college, and then I did a lot of on-the-job training at different places, working towards getting an apprenticeship at the PUD. And for the mechanic job, that's a requirement. You start out as an apprentice, and they train you on every aspect of being able to repair and maintain the dams. So you're getting welding, machining, fabricating, print reading. They do a lot of weld theory. You get a lot of math. Oh my goodness, you get a lot of math. Anyways, and then for the diving part of it, I went to the Dive Institute in Seattle for a month of training. We do the core training at the Dive Institute, and then we do all of our further training at the dam. So it's on-the-job training with the dive crew, which is really good. It's a quality program that we have. And then I went on and got my EMT certification just to support the dive crew. There's all kinds of specialized training at the district that you get to do, but we are also state certified crane operators. We do a lot of crane operating, what we do. If I was going to recommend things for kids to do or pay attention to if you're interested in a mechanic job or a dive job, there is a lot of math. Stay in math. Also for the diving, there's a lot of physics and anatomy. And I feel like sometimes I'm a little bit of a doctor. We do all our dive-related illness or incidents at the district are treated on site we are all trained to treat those. And that's one of the pieces of equipment we have is the recompression chamber out at work. It's a pretty impressive piece of equipment, but it takes a lot of training to use it. And we train annually for that, just because it's very important. Generally, if somebody's in there, they're really sick. So I did bring some stuff to show, or something. We, as I mentioned, we weld underwater, we cut underwater. The oxygen cutting underwater is awesome. I wish I could show, if I had some way to show you all what it looks like, because it just is amazing to cut something with a flame underwater. It's very loud and violent, but it's fun and exciting. And the welding is kind of the same way. It always amazes me that you can weld something together underwater. But as well, compressors. We have a lot of compressors at work that make oxygen-rich air for us to breathe underwater. We don't just breathe the standard 21%. We do a 36 and a 32% gas, which is better for your body when you're working underwater. Anyways, so I couldn't bring a compressor home because those are pretty cool. So what I did bring, what would fit in my car, was I brought a Kirby Morgan 97 stainless steel dive hat. This is my favorite piece of equipment, probably because it is the most important thing to me when I'm in the water. Inside, when you're in the water, inside it's generally completely dry. If it has a neoprene neck seal that goes around your neck, and it seals on a O-ring that's on the edge inside the neck, and that keeps the water generally keeps the water out of your hat. I've had some leaky neck dams and hats full of water, and it's very uncomfortable to have that going on inside the hat. But these have a regulator on the face. We have a camera and LED light, so that we can see. Like I said, it's murky in the river, so we can see what we're doing, and the camera so that we can be supported from topside. So when we're diving, our timekeeper and dive supervisor can see what we're doing. It's nice to be on the top side so you can see what's going on, but if you screw up or do something silly or dumb, they get to see what happened, and then they can tease you about it later. So plus and minuses. Anyway, so the regulator delivers air into there's a rubber seal around your mouth inside that also has a microphone, so you can talk. And it's a two-way conversation all the time. You can hear and talk without doing anything. So, and everybody can be a part of the conversation. It gets a little bit busy in there when everybody's talking at you. But it's nice to have. You don't have to mess with anything. There's a lot of outfits have a push to talk. We have to manage it, but so you can supply a lot of air. This is the newest regulator they have, and it delivers a lot of air, sometimes more than you want. It's like if you push the purge button, it's like sticking your head out of the car at 60 miles an hour and opening your mouth. It's a lot of air. People always ask if I get claustrophobic in here, but once it's on, it's pretty comfortable inside, and it doesn't feel like you're confined too much. However, it weighs 37 pounds, so it's quite a weight on your neck, and when you're working face down, it's just hanging there all the time. Anyways, it's an expensive piece of equipment. These are about $10,000, but it's a life-saving piece of equipment and makes it possible for us to do our job safely and efficiently. Anyways, I'll open it up to any questions if anybody has anything. Oh, I've never seen a dead person in the river, and I have seen and been next to some very large fish. Those are the two things that people always ask me. I've punched a 7-foot sturgeon in the face, but I have not seen it. So I'll open up the questions now.
Okay, thank you, Matt. You have quite a few questions here. So one, is all of your gear really heavy?
Yes. So we wear a wetsuit, a hot suit, and a hot suit is nice because in the wintertime, it's pumping hot water to us. So when we get in the river, we might be stepping through, a sheet of ice, but once the cold water goes away, the warm water comes in and it's nice and toasty. But I'm about 175 pounds, and I'm probably 300 pounds coming out of the water. So I've got a bailout bottle that weighs 50 pounds, helmet's 37, and a lot of water and tools and gear hanging on me. So it's heavy.
Okay, second question. How old were you when you learned to dive?
So it's funny, my dad was a diver when I was a little kid. He did it for a little while. So I remember being really young, seeing it and being on the dive site. But I was 29 when I started diving. I was old for a diver. It's a young man's game, they say, but you just stay fit and take care of yourself, you'll be all right.
Fair enough. Number 3, what does the dam sound like underwater?
It's, if nothing's running, it's very peaceful, but when the units are running, it's a very loud, pulsing sound, and you can feel it in your chest. It feels like it's beating on you. The turbines move so much water, but it's extremely loud. It's hard to hear. We will dive. The units are separated by concrete piers, so we'll dive a unit and a half away from a running unit, and you can feel the concussion from the turbine blades. It's thumping.
Number 4, does being a diver make you a better hiker?
I think being a hiker makes me a better diver, actually. I hike a lot. I mountain climb in my free time. I think it's the other way around. My carrying packs and stuff like that make it better for diving, because when we're climbing ladders with all our dive gear on, it's a lot of work.
And then number 5, what does the recompression chamber do?
So if you get decompression sickness, it comes from getting nitrogen bubbles in your blood. When they expand, when you come up in the water, the pressure on your body lessens. So the bubbles that you're breathing in when you're at a deeper depth, they're much smaller. So when you're coming up, they're getting bigger. And if you come up too fast, or if you're off gassing too fast, those bubbles will get stuck and they're really big. So when you go into the recompression chamber, that pressurizes you back down. It just dumps a bunch of air pressure in on you. So it shrinks those bubbles back down so that they can pass through your bloodstream. And what happens is it passes through and gets to your lungs, and you just exhale all that gas. But nitrogen is the bad gas. We use up oxygen, our body consumes it. The nitrogen, however, has to be exhaled out. So when you're taking gas on at depth, you're taking quite a bit more nitrogen than what your body can handle. So we have to decompress when we're coming up, and we have ascent rates and things that we have to follow. But the chamber just recompresses those gas bubbles to a size that's manageable for your body. And treatments last about 7 hours. It's not fun.
Wow. Okay. Is there any other questions for Matt? Okay. So thank you so much, Matt.
Thanks, Pam.
Our next career panelist is Andy Botts, Hydro-Wireman for Chelan County PUD.
All right. right, thanks, Tammy. So my name's Andy Botts. I'm a Hydro-Wireman for Chelan County PUD. I work at Rocky Reach, Rock Island, Chelan Powerhouse, and we also work up in Stehekin. Up there we have a small powerhouse on the river. So our main job is to maintain all the electrical equipment for Chelan County. We can be installing equipment, we can be doing maintenance on facilities, and we can be doing proactive work and reactive work. We can get called in the middle of the night that we had a line go down that might be going over to Seattle. So we'll go out to our switch yards. We'll do switching, which involves taking lines out, taking breakers out, and restoring power. A lot of our work too is in the powerhouse. So when we take a unit down and we disassemble a unit, the wireman, the generator, we have a stator and a rotor. And our main job is that's where our power comes from. And so we do all the maintenance, testing, the PLC for the units, for the turbines. It's kind of the brain of the operation of a turbine. So we'll do upgrades. If there's any problem with wiring, we'll troubleshoot. And from the powerhouse, when we send our power out, they go to switch yards. And from those switch yards, we have breakers, we have transformers. We'll do maintenance on transformers, maintenance on breakers. We'll do switching throughout the day. And then also on the powerhouse, we have transformers. And some of the work that we've done is if a transformer needs to have a bushing changed out, it might involve bringing tankers and cranes in, and we're hanging grounds, draining oil, replacing bushings, doing wiring on the control cabinets. So there's a lot of moving parts to the wireman crew. We're certified to run cranes. We work at aerial lifts. We drag tankers around wherever needed. And so part of the reason I got into this is I had the opportunity to work with the mechanics early in my career and the wiremen. And over time, I was drawn to the wireman side. And I actually got an apprenticeship at Chelan County. And the apprenticeship was a 3-year program of schooling and hours. And I completed those 3 years and got my journeyman's card. And I'm 3 years in now. To give you guys a heads up on any kind of experience you would want before you get in here, any job electrical or any apprenticeship electrical is going to help you greatly down the road getting into an apprenticeship or being hired as a journeyman. We're hiring journeymen all the time. A lot of our workforce is, they're getting older and we're losing a lot of guys. And so the next 20 years, there's going to be a door that's just opening for guys to come in because guys are leaving. I actually went to lineman school at a high school, and I was going to become a lineman. And I spent a lot of time out in Washington, and I learned I wanted to get back home. And so I was always interested in dams. I got to do the tours growing up, and I wanted to get my foot in the door. And so I got hired on as hydro maintenance at Grant County. And hydro maintenance was, I got to work with all the crews. So I got to get experience in all those areas and kind of figure out what I wanted to do. And so that's how I ended up at Chelan County. And if Chelan County has an opportunity for you to get in the door, that's a great way to do it. The best thing I love about my job is we are never in one spot forever. We're always moving. So I can be in the powerhouse for a couple of weeks, and then I can be on a mountaintop. We're working at radio towers. We have battery banks in those radio towers we have to maintain. Then I can be in the switch yard in Chelan. I could be in the switch yard at Rock Island. I could be in the switch yard at Rocky Reach. It's spread out all over the county. So you're getting to see new obstacles all the time. It's always new. You'll never learn everything in the trade. You're always learning, and that's one thing I enjoy. Is you have a chance to learn all the time, and that's fun for me. I really enjoy that. One drawback is you can get a call at midnight, 3 in the morning, you know, we have an issue and we need you to come out. So, yeah, you know, you can have some really odd hours. Typically, you know, it's for a normal day, we'll show up at 6 in the morning. We'll go over our job briefing in the morning, and it can include, you know, if we're wiring panels for a couple weeks, it could be we're doing construction, installing breakers, or it could be unit teardowns. We're tearing units out of the hole at the powerhouse. So the rotors are out on the floor, the head covers, everything's scattered. So it's kind of neat. You get to see the turbine complete, tear it out, and put it back together. So there's a lot of different stuff you get to see, a lot of moving parts. So it's fun. And I do have a couple tools here so you can kind of see what we get to play with. So right here, a wireman's, one of the things you'll use a lot is a meter. And this is just a typical fluke meter. And we use this for troubleshooting, for wiring. You'll use those quite a bit. And being a wireman, we also strip a lot of cable. So right here, a little hand tool, we use these. These are little catapult wire strippers. Sometimes you'll have these in your hand for a week straight. You're wiring a panel, you'll just be going to town using this and screwdrivers and socket wrenches, everything you can think of. And once you get outside on the bigger, like a breaker or transformer, we'll be hanging grounds. So to hang grounds, we use what we call a shotgun. And a shotgun's real similar to what you see linemen use out on the line. This right here is how we hang our grounds. So we use these a lot, even in the powerhouse. Anytime we're putting grounds on, we'll be using the shotgun stick. And when you hang grounds, we have to have our protection on. So we'll actually have arc flash shield on. We'll have a balaclava, and we have rubber gloves. So this right here is an example of a rubber glove we will wear when we're installing this. So let's see. That's about it. So if anybody has any questions, go ahead, feel free to ask.
Perfect. So you have a couple here. Which dam is your favorite one?
I would have to say Rocky Reach is my favorite dam to work at. It's number one, it's just pretty. I like Rocky Reach. And the units are bigger. You know, I'm a big guy, so when you're standing next to a rotor out on the floor, it makes you feel real small. It's impressive how big everything is at that dam. So.
Okay. Number two, where did you learn how to operate all of the equipment you use?
So when I got into my apprenticeship, they give us the opportunity to go through crane certification training, and they offer us to get our CDLs, to run fork trucks, backhoes, everything we need to. So once you get on, that training will be provided to you, so you can use it in your career. I had a CDL before I came in, but as far as getting my crane license and all my other certifications for lifts, that was done at the PUD.
Okay, so let's see here. How did you find out about the apprenticeship you did?
So I found out online. I knew I wanted to get into an apprenticeship as a wireman. So what I did is Chelan County, Douglas County, and Grant County, I would just check their websites every couple of weeks and look for a wireman apprenticeship. And it popped up one day, and I started the process, got the ball rolling, put the resume in, and yeah, just checking the internet.
You have two more questions. First one, do you always work outside?
No, we don't always work outside. Right now, our projects are in the powerhouse. There's multiple crews as wiremen. So one crew can be outside working on a project, and another crew can be working in the powerhouse. So as job scopes change week to week, 1 week I can be in the powerhouse, and then the next week I could be outside for a month in switchyard. It's always changing. So.
Okay, last question. Do you work alone or a part of a team?
So I work on a crew. It's constructed of a foreman, and right now we have 5 journeymen and an apprentice. I will work alone on certain projects. It just depends. Normally we're a team, we're paired up, or we're working all together. It just depends on the scope of the job, what we have at hand. Yes, you work alone, and yes, you work as a crew.
Okay, well, thank you, Andy. That sums up our virtual career panel. I want to open this up. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. We are 1 minute over an hour, but I do want to open this up for any questions for all of the panelists. If anybody has any questions right now. Okay, well, I will take that as a, let's kind of wrap this up. I just want to, again, I just want to thank everyone so much for all of your participation in this virtual career panel. I really hope that you enjoyed. Oh, wait, hold on, I do have a question. Oh. Great job from Chelan County PUD from Waterville School. So, but yes, I hope you enjoyed the program today. I just want to say a few things really fast. If you need any further information or if you have any questions at all, I'm going to open that up. Just so everybody can see that. You can reach out to Bob Bauer, the educational specialist. His information is posted here. So if you have any questions later that you find out, or maybe you sleep on it and tomorrow morning you're like, oh my gosh, I forgot to ask this, send Bob a quick email or a phone call. He'd be willing to answer any of your questions. And then I wanted to say, if you want more information and keep up to date on events that we host, or any more virtual career panels, you can follow us on the Career Connected Grant and Adams Facebook page, or the Apple STEM Network Facebook page as well. They are both posted here on your screen. In closing, on behalf of the North Central ESD and Apple STEM Network, we would like to thank Chelan County PUD for your participation today. Thank you all so very much, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.